is one. We will be sure. We will be sure.
Hello all, and a warm welcome on this January 18th. I'm Simone Smith, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, and this is Breaking Barriers, the radio show addressing all the big elephants in all of the rooms of the world. Today's topic is going to break yet another barrier. This discussion will address the tension that lies between many civilians with cultural and social differences. This should be important to every listener because all human beings begin as strangers to one another. Until we take the time to get to know someone for who they are, all of our preconceived notions and defenses remain. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of his dream, I think he meant every word of it. We have not yet fulfilled his dream that 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. This line was not meant to be overlooked. Let's, by tradition, first see what our listeners think. What do you have to say about cultural differences and the way our society handles them? Our first call-in guest is Jerome Phillips from Florida. Hello, Jerome, Breaking Barriers special guest. Now tell us what you think about this tension that lies between races, even today in this day and age.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Now, Simone, I can tell you what's wrong. I can tell you exactly what the issue is. What battles we fight all have to do with the color of our skin. White people are walking around with white man's guilt, this collective feeling that makes many whites harbor a sense of burden for the treatment of blacks in history. And they also, at the same time, seem to possess this white man's privilege that will automatically give them more opportunity than an equivalent, or even better, black man. Conversely, we have black men walking around with this angry defense that is put up and amplified with each day that passes, with each injustice that we see publicized.
Wow, deep words again, coming from Jerome Phillips, calling all the way from Tampa, Florida. Thank you, Jerome. Now, let's see how this sentiment resonates with other viewers. Next, we have Laura Stevens calling in from Charleston, South Carolina. Hello, welcome to Breaking Barriers, Miss Laura. Now, let's hear it. You want to know what the real issue is? The imagination that this thing called white man's privilege even exists. That's also the issue with affirmative action. I think that there have been more than enough successful African Americans to prove that anyone can succeed and get a job. I mean, we have a black president, for crying out loud. All people in all workplaces should be hired based on merit and not at all the color of your skin. Inequality is a thing of the past. All right, interesting perspective from South Carolinian Laura Stevens. Now, lastly, we have a Patrick Long calling in all the way from Anaheim, California. Hello, Patrick, and a warm welcome to Breaking Barriers. Now, tell us your opinion. What is there to be said about the unfair sense of competition lying between black and white citizens? Do you believe there is even any tension to be addressed?
I'd like to start by saying thanks so much for having me on the show. And in regards to your question, yes, I certainly believe that this does exist, but I don't believe that this tension is always organic. Many say to blame Americans or America's past for it. I don't agree. The real perpetrator is the media, and we, the American citizens, are the victims. Just take a moment to step back from the madness and ask yourself, why, when these crimes are so heavily sensationalized, the headline, instead of saying something along the lines of 1 killed in accidental shooting, it will instead read, white man shoots down black man, alleged accident. That is not to say that these publicized cases don't deserve the attention they receive, but this is very real-life example goes to show just how strategically these headlines are designed to cause an uproar in society, often pitting citizens against one another based on what comes down to cultural differences.
Wow, Patrick. Thank you. That's a very unique viewpoint on the matter. Now that concludes all of our guest callers. So, where does the blame lie? America's history? Animosity between races? Illusion of inequality? The media's portrayal of crime investigations? Now, I'd like to officially open this topic with an excerpt from the poem entitled Black Burns from viral UCLA student video that addressed the discrimination against cultural differences. When we were children, we learned to mix colors with a paintbrush. We learned that white mixed with anything makes it brighter. But we didn't dare mix anything with brown or black, or else our entire creation would be ruined. Now, this beautifully written poem is by no means to act like a direct example of our society's view as a whole, but it speaks volumes. Now, to touch on a response to Laura's view on affirmative action laws, I raise the question, is America ready to be without it? Is social and professional injustice so diminished that employers can be trusted to hire people and it be assumed to always be on fair grounds? Because even now, there is no fair ground walked on by any American citizen. With each and every day that passes, I am more convinced that inequality is inevitable. Even when achieved, it is more often attained by force, and there will always, even then, be some underlying sense of competition, and this will always leave a short end of the stick to be had. We have this imagination of difference being the enemy, a shortcoming, and too often seek for these differences to be eliminated. That has to stop. But the end of this is unattainable without support. It doesn't work with a society that has the ideals we do now. Can we change the American dream? Until we agree that none of us are superior, then we will have only achieved just the sense of equality. Then, what is to happen to our self-esteem, our confidence? Should we let it be affected at all by beginning to view others as equals? Tune back in tomorrow to hear those questions answered and break the barrier in the battle. Man versus man. I'm Simone Smith, and this was your daily fix of breaking barriers. Peace. S.